calling out the many answers, pleading skies cry for hours, dropping peace bombs, collecting prayers, sky that mirrors, sky that stares, asking, I've been to the mountains, and I've walked on the shore. I see.
Hello, and welcome to a special remote episode of Melee Stats Deep Dives. I don't know if this comes through, but I am in the wilderness today. I'm outside. I'm letting nature take over. The first deep dives to actually take place right near a body of water. I'm on a little bit of a vacation, and I thought, what more fun than to record from vacation? And you know what? My guest actually too just had a little bit of an excursion going on. Isn't that right, Webbs?
Yeah, my first excursion to Southern California, actually.
And what could that be for?
It was to attend Smash Summit 9.
Wow. Now, so Smash Summit's been one of the bigger events that we've had in Melee since it got introduced in 2015. And this is your first time going as a commentator. Can you divulge how your feelings towards that, and then the event itself, for a first-time perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I'd never been to one, not as a commentator either. This is my first time attending any of them. And recently they switched to the studio instead of the house that they used to hold it in. So I don't really have a comparison that I can draw between the two of them. But I can tell you that the studio is awesome. I was talking to Hotbid, Ken, one of the directors of I don't know what his official position even is, Illuminati or something like that.
Probably.
Yeah. He was telling me that they had finally finished completing the studio. The last couple events that they had put on there, they weren't 100% done with it. But everything's all together there now. The facilities are awesome. They gave me a little tour.
Is there enough room for a little weedy there?
A little weedy, or
a little
I
weedy.
said weed at first.
I mean, it's California. It's legal.
It is California. Yeah, it's fair. Yeah, I think we can squeeze give me that wheat in there somewhere.
All right, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll reserve a beanbag with your name on it. How's that sound?
Oh, that sounds perfect. And I'll just sleep there.
Perfect. Yeah, you wouldn't be the only one who would sleep it on the beanbags there.
Well, I plan on moving in. I don't know if that's goes without saying.
Yeah, that wasn't clear to me.
New permanent home, Smash Summit Studios, beyond the Summit Studios. But yeah, that's amazing.
It's like your furniture; you just come with the place,
Yeah, I get the place gets sold, and I'm still there. It's like a Muscle Milk, company. I'm yeah, I'm here.
Hey guys, you just wave at them when they're moving in.
I don't know what you guys want me to do, but if you need anything, I'm here. But that's amazing. I think the summit is a goal for so many people, and it's amazing to not only see so many of my friends at this summit, but also get messages and DMs from people just assuming I'm there.
Really?
Yeah, people are like, wow, you're there, right? That's so cool. And I was like, no, I'm in my bed right now. I'm at home.
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye out for you in the background. You should go back there sometime. Give us a little preview.
Yeah, wave to us when you're on camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
just waving from your bedroom.
I mean, aren't we all on camera in this society?
Wow.
In this post-Snowden world we live in. Very
deep.
But speaking of being on camera, how was the event in terms of commentator experience? I know that there's it seems a little more lax from the perspective of a viewer, and I just want to know, did you feel that way from the perspective of talent?
Yeah, please refer to me as talent and not a commentator.
No, I got your message.
That's what I was billed at.
Your message that said, I will be on the show only if you refer to me as talent. In more than ways than one.
It's funny, going into it, I didn't really consider at all how it would be different doing commentary at a summit
Yeah.
compared to like a typical event. Because I've watched every summit, obviously, so like I just know intrinsically, having processed how it's changed over time, and also how it hasn't changed. You know, they've kept a very similar format as far as commentary is concerned for much of it. You know, it wasn't until I actually like was up and I had to like sit down for the first time and talk on the couch that I was like, oh, this is pretty different. There's 3 other people here. At most, I've done tricasts for commentary before, and even those are far and few between. So, I honestly don't think it took me much time to warm up to, though. Part of it is that I'm really comfortable with all the other commentators who were at the event.
Very helpful, I imagine.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference to like know the people you're working with, just in general. And aside from that, you know, they'd all been to multiple summits before, so they had experience with the couch, so I was able to just kind of like
Did they kind of
settle into an easy flow. Yeah, I got bullied and shoved into a locker every morning.
They put in lockers just for that reason.
Yeah, brand new lockers just for bullying the new people. So that was pretty cool. Got to smell the gym socks in there.
Objectively, it is a cool thing. Subjectively, I'm mad that they did that to a friend of mine, but objectively, that is like just a flex.
Yeah. Literally, they flexed their muscles when they were shoving me in there.
And they're also strong. I don't think you realize that.
Yeah, Lovage actually benches 340, so people just can't tell it because of his light frame, you know.
Yeah,
it's all the muscle is all sinew. It's all there.
When you see Lovage, you think he's like 5'7", and then you see him at an event, and he turns out to be like 6'4", 380.
Yeah, he's actually
just all
7'1". He's just like massive, you know. Speaking of Lovage, we all got branded. Well, not branded. Yeah, I guess branded. We had Summit branded water bottles that they gave us.
Nice.
And I left mine at a bar like a dumbass. So I don't have mine, but Lovage said he didn't want his, so I have one, but it just says his name on it.
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna take a sip from it right now. Here we go.
I'm gonna pause so we can hear this.
Oh yeah, that's good water.
Yeah, I had a question that I was gonna say for off pod, but it comes up here. Was there a discount for merch? This is the most like inside baseball question that I could think of. I just really want to know.
No, they just bought some merch like for us. Like they, JJ, one of the Beyond the Summit employees, she just like bought like 3 boxes worth of merch, just like various items in
like
a couple of different sizes. Yeah, and then we all got to pick like 2 or 3 items, which was pretty sick. Because, you know, they want us to like wear the stuff on camera and show it off.
That is advertising. If you have all of the people on the couch wear stuff that they could buy, of course. Huh. Okay, well.
I got lucky. I got the Zero Viewers hat.
Yeah.
I think there was only one of them in the box, and I sniped it. And I need a new hat, too, because I lost my favorite hat, my Cubs hat that I've been wearing for years. You've probably seen me wearing it at events plenty of times.
Yeah, the famous Cubs hat. Damn.
I'm super sad, dude. I don't know where it is.
End of an era.
Yeah, but I have the Zero Viewers hat now, which is also pretty dope. So I'm going to be wearing that one religiously and getting it really dirty.
When it's the end of an era, it's always the beginning of a new era.
Yeah, that's what I like to say.
And didn't we see that with Hungry Box winning yet another major?
Yeah. More of a continuation of an era than anything.
The era of the 4-month span where he didn't win any big tournaments is now done.
Yeah, the tiny little mini era that we had there.
It was a bit of an era, though. I remember like messaging people just so confident about Melee, and everyone was like, yeah, it's great. Like, I was at... this is very funny. I was at an Overwatch event.
Oh, yeah.
VIP. Not bragging. It's just important to the story.
You would never. Mm-hmm.
And talking with all of these high ranking of people, VPs and such. And yeah, it's just like everyone was so happy about... Obviously, they didn't care about Melee, but everyone's just so happy about esports right now. And that, like, affected me so much, seeing these 40-year-old men who are just, like... They're gushing about esports. And they really, you know... They're like spouting things that they probably just learned from their kids, which is beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really good. It was a really fun experience to just see everyone so excited about esports, and then like that definitely came through me for Melee, and then I was telling people, and then everyone was like, "This is such a great time." Yeah, and it's a great time still. HBox winning doesn't stop that, but like I wonder if there is a bit of a connection you could make between like Mango and Zane winning and everybody being excited about Melee.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree with you in the past, and I don't know what the vibe was like elsewhere, but at the venue, like people were still pretty pumped because Plup made such a huge run, you know.
Mm-hmm.
HBox prevailed in the end, but one of the coolest stats coming out of the weekend was that Plup was the 10th seed, and he ran it all the way to second set of grand finals. And if he had won, he would have been the lowest seeded player to ever win a major.
Damn, where'd you find that out?
I found that out from either you or Pika, I can't remember which one of you, in the Melee Stats Podcast Discord server.
Where's the link to that?
You can find it on meleestats.co or on the Melee Stats Twitter, which is at twitter.com/meleestats.
Or in the description of this video.
In the description of this video.
Damn, I'm
Boom.
here trying to get you to be my heir to this podcast, but you can't do it yet.
I'm working on it, all right?
The heir to the podcast, which would then like gain many more viewers if you were doing it, just by like the basis of you being involved.
Just that because I have more Twitter followers than you.
Truly no way to find that out. There's no way to fact check.
Is there actually a link to the Discord server on meleestats.co, by the way? I'm not sure about that.
We'll get the,
you should definitely add it
figure
if you don't have it yet.
We should. There's one to the Patreon.
Nope, there's a link. Yeah, there is. All right,
okay,
cool.
There we go. See, we got everything here.
Wow, look at this. Yeah, you got a huge buy the book of Melee button, and then you got a bunch of tiny little social media links right next to it.
It's like those pop-up ads where there's fake X's, but all the fake X's just bring you to buy the book of Melee.
Yeah, and it's already auto-added to your cart on Amazon. Like, it's all set up.
Yeah, like somehow it already puts all your information in, and you just have to like hit click. You just have to hit purchase.
Yeah.
He's a scammer. That's for sure.
Just trying to make that bread. Just trying to stack that paper.
Yeah, get that shmoney.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw some shmoney this weekend. That's for sure.
Yes, the second biggest prize pool in Melee history.
That is nuts. It is so crazy. I remember earlier this week in the Melee Stats Podcast Discord server, we were just talking in the voice chat, and we were going over it. And somehow, it's whatever conversation, and it gets to the topic of like biggest Melee tournaments of all time. And it's just crazy to look. Like 2017 has like 5 of the top 10 in terms of players, in terms of number of players, number of entrants in Melee singles. And it's hard to look at that and just not feel like we are past our prime. Yet everything how I feel right now just pushes me the opposite way. I mean, I talked about it earlier about how I was very positive, how other people are very positive about Melee right now, and looking at stuff like, what is it? It ended up being 70K, right?
Just short. I think it ended at like 69.5.
Really?
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an amazing thing to see if you are a fan of Melee right now.
Well, and aside from that too, the thing that has shocked me the most is that we've had 2 decently one pretty large and another pretty, fairly big sized sponsorship pickups recently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one that was revealed here.
Yeah. Zane with Golden Guardians right after Genesis, in the brief span between Genesis and Summit. And then, like you mentioned, None getting signed by UYU, which I still don't know what that stands for, if it even does stand for anything.
I don't know what it stands for. I know that None is a great pickup for the team. I don't think it's a better pickup than their Tekken player Yu, who is Uyu.
No way, really?
Yeah, she's the Tekken player Yu.
That's amazing.
It is like the best brand tag synergy that I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's up there for sure.
So yeah, we definitely saw some amazing pickups. I think everyone's just really excited about Melee currently, and this is like quite the time. So let's get into it. So we saw there's good reason to be excited about Melee, right? It's because we see been seeing so much of it. We've had Genesis, which was amazing. We had Saving Mr. Lombardi, which was really interesting in how many top players we saw and how they played each other in that format. And then speaking of formats, we have a format again, which is pretty new to the Smash scene. I don't think there's been a tournament in any like notable fighting game that I've seen run in this format, and it just gave us so much Melee to watch. So, what were your thoughts of that from someone who was at the event? We saw this is the first time someone's running like an 18 entrant invitational like this. This is the first time Summit's opened their entries from 16 to 18. What were your thoughts on that?
I liked the idea of expanding it a little bit and moving up from 16 players because, there is some truth to, excuse me, like the round robin 4-4-4-4 pools format doesn't lend itself to a ton of opportunities for the, let's call them rising stars that that entered the event. Like in this instance, the names that come to mind would be like Magi, Ryobeat, Priscent, and Bobby Big Balls, I'd say.
Yeah.
I think there's a pretty clear gap between them and the field. You might even put Shroomed.
Yeah, like Shroomed or Spark.
He's not like a rising player.
Be lumped in there, yeah.
Spark, I legit don't put in there because I think he's just that good now. Like he's like a top 20 player at this point. But you could put him in there. I'm just saying personally, I don't.
Will.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, feel free. But I lost my train of thought now.
Well, you're talking about how it gives these players the
format.
opportunities to really show themselves, where a traditional format might not.
Yeah, that was super cool. That they got more opportunities, right? More sets.
Mm-hmm.
I think that given the fact that there were 18 players, that the format that they chose to go with, the 9-person Swiss, was a decent option. I don't think there's really any good answer to 18 people. I remember the discussion some people were having in the Discord server were about 3 pools of 6. That can also lead to some other complications.
I was
a
proponent of 3 round robin pools of 6.
It could work.
That led to the discussion of, well, isn't that an awkward way to decide who doesn't make it out? And everything's going to be awkward.
It is, yeah.
Like
right, everything's awkward. Exactly.
Everything is awkward in this situation that you put us in by doing 2 pools of 9. Regardless, I think that making a summit format is always going to be kind of, to use a kind of a $10 word, a Sisyphean task. I think it is.
I love it. Nice.
It's hard to hit all the checkpoints of giving us a lot of Melee, which is something that we've been blessed recently. We've always been getting just a ton of Melee sets between all the top players for the past few summits, and that's just an amazing thing. But you have to also factor in. So we want that. We want it to be competitive, and we want it to also mean something. And not only does it have to do all that, but it also has to be made in a way where it can't be gamed.
Yeah, that's probably the hardest part, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like the last set of the day, some people were throwing some shade at Mango because they felt like he didn't put his full effort into it. The last set of day 2 of pools, I'd say.
Yeah, I think that's just as important as well. When you're asking these players to play so many sets over so many days, and this is not like a traditional tournament. You're not going to be seeing round 1 pools into round 2 pools. You have top level play going on the entire day. If you look at you talked about Mango. Didn't Mango have to play HBox like round 3 or something like that, and then he had to play AMSA super early?
He played HBox incredibly early.
Yeah.
I think that the set suffered for it too.
I agree.
But that's just how it is at these. Like, if it were round robin pools, he would still have had to play an incredibly tough opponent like early in the day.
Of
that
course.
doesn't change.
Yeah.
It's just that since there were more sets, you're playing over a longer period of time. So
for sure.
Not a huge deal in the end. I didn't mind the format. I think my biggest gripe with it was just that I personally didn't put enough effort into researching all of the little tiebreaker details. Like, I knew the general overview of the format. I knew how it was going to work. I had a good idea of how buys were going to work for it too. And then when it came down to it, the little details ended up mattering, because in Pool 2 there were 4 players who were 2 and 3 going into the final sets. And so all of these individual games mattered. They did game percentage instead of like game count, which made sense also, but I wasn't prepared for, because not everyone plays the same amount of sets, because some players get buys and some players don't. So, I mean, they planned for the contingencies, and it did end up being a little bit goofy. And like I said, that Mango Plup set, it ended up mattering in like an interesting way, because, you know, Plup had to win to get out into winners.
Yes.
But then the fact that he won and Mango took no games also affected like winner's bracket. Like, it changed some of the seeding too.
If you talk to Leffen about it, Leffen would just say that Mango didn't care. Mango threw. Mango didn't counterpick FD. If Mango counterpicked FD, Leffen would play Plup. Leffen would beat Plup. Leffen would beat you know, like. But I think that there is some criticism, right? Like, when you're talking about an event like this, if your top players are criticizing the event, even if it is small criticisms, those matter. Like, any criticism from a top player holds some water. And I think that Leffen is right in a way when he talks about how hard it is to constantly be playing well all day and then go into a double elimination bracket, and what does it really mean, right? Like, Leffen, lost 1 set in his pool. He lost to Zane.
Yeah, I think so.
And he beat Axe. He beat Wizzy. Like, he beat all these other players who were very, very good. And what did that mean to him? He lost to Mango, and he lost to IBW for 9th. Which I definitely understand the kind of frustration in playing all of these really important sets, and then them actually not being incredibly important outside of seeding. Like, we saw it last year as well with IBW, where he went like 0-3 in his pool, and then ended up getting 4th.
Made a huge run.
Yeah, it's hard to say like what is the better way to do it. You know, maybe you do have people who kind of fall off during pools and then bring it back in winners bracket, or just bracket in general. But it's tough. Overall, I do love that the fact that the Summit team always tries to innovate. And a very selfish part of me likes that maybe this didn't hit the mark completely, because this leaves a wheat-sized hole to come in and say, oh, you know, you could run it like this. Ah, you need help running it. Wow. I just so happened to be free that day.
That's your impression of yourself, huh?
That's how I hear myself.
Yeah, the voice that you hear in your head.
What voice do you hear for yourself?
For myself?
Yeah, for yourself.
I don't know. I sound like myself. I like my voice a lot, so I just like stick with it, you know.
Yeah, you were just on the Summit couch. You were just talking over everyone else because you were like, Lovage, your voice isn't as cool as mine. If you got something good to say, text it to me, and I'll say it for you.
Yeah, they all had headsets on, but they weren't really used. I was like, why are you guys wearing? It's like, you can sit here if you want, but like.
Yeah, I mean, if there aren't enough seats around, like, you can take the seat. I'm not going to say no.
Right. You can eat here. That's fine.
How comfy were those couches?
One of them was significantly comfier than the other. I actually was trying to sit in one more often.
Yeah, I saw you on the... I would call it... What is that? Stage left?
Stage left.
Weren't they the same couch?
No, they were different. And then what's weird is, so, you know, they had the living room set up, too, where they did, like, Mafia and stuff?
Yes.
They also had one of each of the couches in there. So they had 2 of each kind of couch. They just split them up in different areas. I guess to, like, for diversity or something. I don't know.
I'll have to pick their brain on this.
I really got to know the answer to this. I don't know why they would split it up. It really was blowing my mind.
And you're not going back until you figure that out, right?
Yeah. I told Ken. I was like, Hotbid, listen to me, bud. You got to solve this couch situation if you're going to even talk to me.
Webbies can't be back without the couch situation figured out.
Yeah, I call myself Webbies. That's true. That's what I did.
I called myself Weedy.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, I call you Weedo. I like that.
I've never heard that from you.
I call you Weedo in text all the time.
Okay, yeah,
not
fine.
in words.
That's very fair.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
My idea for a format change would be to go to 20, because with 20 it opens up a lot of opportunity for different formats.
I can't believe you would do this to me on my own show. Do you know how many times I've told people I've been wheeling and dealing to every member of BTS who I have even the slightest connection with, and I've been trying to tell them to do 20. This has been when they announced 18, I thought it was cool, and then like immediately I was like, they should do 20. I agree so much. 20 is something that not only can you do so much with, it's also something that has been done many different times. Unlike 18, which is like, you know, you're kind of figuring it out on your own. 20, you can look at all these other people. You know, like Tekken ran a 20 person World Tour Finals. They do 5 4-person round robins, or no, sorry, 4 or 5. Well,
yeah, it's awesome. It sounds amazing.
Something or other, and then it ends up going into they went into an 8-man bracket, but we could do like a 16-person bracket because I know Summit loves that. You could run 4 round robins of 5 people each. The last person each round robin doesn't make it. I think there's so many things you can do. There's a really interesting bracket setup that I was talking to the resident bracket genius Max Curly W about. That like CS:GO has used before, about you have these groups of people and then it's like first to 3. So if you play 3 rounds and you win 3 rounds, then you're top seed. And then if you play 3 rounds and you're like 2-1, then you play another round. And if you get out like 3-1, then you're, and it's really interesting. And I think that it would need a lot of like tinkering to work in this format. But I think I would like to see some sort of innovation from Summit again. And I think, you know, if you're going to have a organization to run an event like that and to be innovative, I think Summit's 100% the one to do it.
Yeah, that sounds like a really sick format, actually.
I agree. I think the biggest thing is that it needs to run some way where the results in the last pool, like, you can't see what is happening. So whether that's not publicized or whether there's some sort of way of making sure the players don't know while the commentators and the viewers do, which seems impossible. Or
that seems tough.
Yeah. If there's some sort of way where you could do, like, you know, if you finish second in your pool, maybe like everything but first seed is randomized, you know, like, so like the 4 people who play second, maybe they're randomized in between. You know, it's hard to say, right?
You're kind of losing me here, man. Too much bracket shit. Too much nerd talk.
Fine. Let's get into some actual not bracketology, but we'll talk about the bracket. Let's talk about some of the matches we saw. So we saw a ton of matches. You know, this is the most singles matches we've seen at a Summit. So I don't think we should get into like a match-by-match thing, but what were some of the best sets that you saw in pools? Not in bracket itself, but just like the Swiss pools.
Let's see. Magi Wizrobe was really good. I don't see a lot of people talking about that one. That's really interesting. It's not like my first pick, but I'm just one of them I'm bringing up. Well, my favorite one was Axe Zane.
I think that is like the consensus.
Probably everyone's favorite.
Best set that we saw in pools. Yeah, what a wild, just a wild run for everyone to take, and then we had to follow it up with Edwin tweeting and being like, "Hey guys, what was worse, that or S2J losing to Armada at Genesis?"
Dude, Edwin is a dumbass. I hated that so much. I was like, Edwin,
he got
get out of your own ass, man.
Blown out in a landslide. It was like 85-15.
He thought it was going to be 50-50.
But yeah, of course.
I also thought I did really good commentary on it. I was really pleased with my the job that the whole couch did, really. But Game 5, I tapped into my Bobby Scar and I tried to set up the stage as best I could, you know?
Yeah.
Because that's one thing Scar has always done really, really well, is he brings the viewers into the stakes of the match. Like he allows them to feel like they're a part of it as it's happening. You know,
Scar may not know who half of the top 100 players are, but when it is Game 5 of like an incredibly important match, he will be able to like tell everyone who is watching why it is so important. And I think that's one of the things that he does
why
so
they should care.
Yeah, like if you put him on pools commentary, you know, he's gonna see like Kadoran 8-stock someone, and I swear like he would not know the difference between like like Kadoran and the player who he's 8-stocking.
He's like, who's this Marth? Who's this Marth? Why is he doing these Zane things? That's my Scar impression.
Very good. I don't know if this is a raccoon or a stray cat, but it's a raccoon.
Ooh, raccoona. We got a little visitor.
Yeah. I don't know if it's the same one or if it's just two in succession. But yeah, I'm surrounded by raccoons right now. So if you hear some screams or whatever, that's how you know what's going on.
Cool. My cat's been on my lap for most of this, so we each have wildlife near us.
Yeah,
my cat is wildlife.
No difference between the two situations.
No, none whatsoever.
Yeah. Let's think of some more wild sets that we saw. It was kind of weird. I feel like we saw sets that were really teed up to be good, and then some of them disappointed. And then we saw sets like Zane Nunn, the first set of the day. I think that was...
Whoa.
Sorry, that's just what happens when I say Zane Nunn. So escape music plays.
Oh, you hear my cat meowing? Bro,
Yeah.
I fed you. Oh my god, he just wants to get pet. Get out of here. Be gone. Okay, back to the podcast.
Yeah, we saw this like 7-stock to open up Zane Nunn, which I think people were kind of hyping up to be a fun match. So like, we had a couple things like that. I think Lef and Wizzy was kind of going to be this big thing, and then they just like, like they smacked each other around a real lot in like a way that wasn't very competitive.
You know what else was a pretty good set was Nunn versus IBDW in pools.
Yes, that was.
I liked that one a lot.
Very fun set. It's really cool to see IBW how he does versus Falcon, and then just like the ultimate melee thing is right, just to see like Nunn stomp it out and end up winning. Yeah,
it was sick because we got both sides of the coin, right? Like you could see the improvements that Cody has put into this matchup, which is one he struggled with historically, and then also see Nunn like pop off in the end, and just like those last 2 stocks he just deleted. Got a couple reads, and that was it. He did the Jeff, the Silent Spectre, the side B grab, down throw, drop zone knee, which I hadn't seen in years, and I was so excited for. That was awesome.
What a hilarious thing, Ambi Sinister had a tweet today about how it's really funny to watch old combo videos and see things that people got so hyped about and are so commonplace now. And I think like the one person who's unaffected by that, the one character who's unaffected is Falcon. Like,
yeah,
dude, Falcon does shit that like Jeff and everyone did back then, and 10 years later people still go nuts.
Well, it's still pretty sick 10 years later, to be fair.
True. I mean, hey, for good reason, right? Yeah, and you bring up Nunn. I think Nunn's a really good example of someone who did really well this tournament. He had the IBW win, which is really good. He had that really close set with Leffen. I don't know if you ended up seeing that one, the Leffen one.
With
right?
Who?
Leffen.
Nunn and Leffen. Oh yeah, yeah, that was an interesting set too because we actually got to see Leffen kind of like body Wizrobe beforehand. Wizrobe, who was the Falcon who had been popping off a year ago at this time, he had a really great beginning to 2019, and all the way up through Smash and Splash was playing awesome. And then he just kind of like got signed by Envy and was big chilling.
Yeah.
And so cool to see. I mean, Wizrobe, he's kind of getting back into.
Yeah.
His performance was like okay at this tournament. It wasn't up to his standards,
No, slowly but surely. From the Big House 6 onwards, I think, or at the Big House 9 onwards.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm just gonna talk 3 years chunks now. But the Big House 9 onwards, like for the last 6 months or so, we really haven't been seeing him rack up a lot of top wins. I think I'm sure I could find this somewhere. I did have it as a stat somewhere, but he's like 2-14 with the top 25 players. Like he has a win on Spark and a win on Moki, and other than that, he is losing to Lucky. He is losing to Fiction. He's losing to every top 10 player he plays.
Wow,
it is a bit rough for him.
What a drop!
Yeah, this was someone who I picked out on the pre-show on the. Preview episode that I did with Chroma. I picked him out. I said he's got a lot to prove here, just because this was the best year that he's ever had was last year, and it's important to know whether or not he is falling off or if that was just kind of a momentary drop off, and he was going to be coming back. And I think there's no concrete answer that we learn, but I do want to bring up the other person who I talked about on the same episode. I mentioned that Plup was in the same exact boat, and we definitively got an answer to that, I think.
Yeah, I'll say. Oh my gosh. Even in some of the pool sets, Plup did look a little off, to be fair. It wasn't until like towards the end of pools he kind of heated up a bit. And then once he got into bracket, it was like something just like a switch just flipped. He just played great.
Was such an incredible bracket for him. And I think that's where like the thing about, if you talk to Leffen would say he was one game away from playing Plup. That could have been entirely different for Plup, to have to face Leffen into H-Box that early. Instead, he got... I'm not going to act like Axe or Zane are necessarily easy for Plup. He lost the last sets versus both of them. He beat Axe at Genesis 7, but he lost the last one at Genesis 6. So, he's definitely been losing sets to these people relatively recently. And he looked confident versus them. He had that.
It was awesome to see.
Yeah, he was really the star of the show, I think. And you mentioned it. He was the 10th seed. This is something that I don't think people really are bringing enough attention to, and it's just because he's been such a good player for so long. He's been seeded so high before, but he was in a slump. He just got 25th at Genesis. That's not...
Yeah, that's nuts, man.
Yeah.
26, and that was with him even beating Axe the round before in losers,
Yeah.
Damn.
So we're looking at Plup. We are looking at someone who... a stat that you mentioned on stream was that he hadn't made it to winners semis, I don't think, since CEO 2019.
Wasn't it 2018 or was it 2019?
2019.
Okay. That's still almost a year,
For someone like him, for a player who was at a time someone who you would give like a 30% chance to win a super major, that's a huge drop off. We weren't sure what to see from Plup. We've been seeing him miss top 8 at so many events before this, and this is just really amazing to see him.
It was only 2 years ago that he beat H-Box to win Genesis 5.
Yeah, and I think he was on a 14 set losing streak with H-Box until
he took
Grand
a
Final set.
Finally, yeah.
Until Grand Final set 1.
That's
he was
awesome.
On a 14 streak set. That is it is really incredible to see, and I think that this kind of elevates how I personally look at Plup and I see his chances. Just really always seemed to be a player who could perform well, and just kind of ran into some roadblocks that he was putting up himself. I don't think that... I think there's some players who match up in experience, or maybe they can't get to tournaments. I think there's some external roadblocks, but I think his 2019 was kind of an internal roadblock type of situation, and just seeing this tournament really makes me feel very good about it. I don't think that he's necessarily solid in every matchup you can throw at him, right? I think that he still has some scary things to see in bracket, but this is so incredible for him.
I had a question for you about how did you feel about Zane's performance, just overall at the event?
Yeah, this is pretty much in line with I think what we'd expect from Zane last year. I think anyone who looks at Zane going to this event was pretty confident that he could win it, which I think that, if he ran this tournament a couple different times, I think that we could see him winning this one. I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility.
Right.
Maybe just kind of showing that some matchups that stand in his way are not necessarily solved yet. The Pikachu thing, that's always going to be a thing for him, at least in the near future. And he won his last set versus Plup before this event, but obviously, if it is a Plup who is playing 100%, a Zane who's playing 80% or 90% or whatever, or even 100%, I think that it might go Plup favored.
Yeah, I actually agree with that as well. Another thing that I wanted to point out about how his run ended, because he ran into Mango, right?
Yeah.
They went game 5,
Mhm.
and one of the most important things about that set was that Mango won game 1, so he only had to deal with FD on the first counter pick.
Yeah.
Because typically, what's been happening is that like Mango has like an odds shot of winning 1 game on FD, but it's like he rarely will ever win 2 games on FD.
Well,
So
yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
No, go on.
I was just gonna say, but it's like even that 1 game is still like he's at a severe disadvantage. So for him to be able to avoid having to battle back a deficit in the set, and I think actually Zane won the game after it as well, so he did end up getting counterpick advantage back.
That is exactly what I was going to bring up.
Yeah,
it is so shocking to see Zane sets this tournament. One thing that I didn't really notice until I was inputting all this set data, character data into Smash GG, because I was the one who did that. So if you like to see the character icons next to people's names, you could thank me.
Thank you, Wheat.
Of course. But one thing I noticed is how well he performed on other people's counter picks. Like, I'm not just talking about sets where he 3-0'd someone, right? Because that's kind of hard to say, like, how much that counter pick meant. But he lost to Mango game 1, counter picked FD, and then 3-stocked him on Yoshi's. That's huge. You know what else happened?
That's massive.
Zane IBW, both sets, he won on FD, and then he won on Dreamland. He ended up 3-stocking IBW on Dreamland twice during the tournament. And yeah, like his set versus Leffen, who knows what to say about that. But he kind of ran into something similar where he just he did well game 1, he did very good game 2 on Dreamland, and he just did great game 3. But even Axe, he obviously went up 2-0 and got reverse 3-0'd, but he still won that first counter pick on Dreamland. It's this really interesting stat that if we see that consistently from Zane, having to not only do you have to play him on FD if you're a Spacey, but possibly have to have this 2-game swing versus him. If that's a stat that he can keep up, that is impressive. That is a tough person to beat. Yeah,
that's a good indicator of success going forward for him. It's kind of shocking to see him doing that so frequently throughout this tournament.
For sure.
Quite being able to claw his way past Orth. Because I think, he lost to Mango.
Yeah.
Those are semis.
I mean, if you look at that, if you look at the ability for him to lose game 1 and then next 2 games go up 2-1, very impressive for him, of course, and then extremely impressive for Mango to be able to still win game 4 and 5. I think this is actually their pass since the big house. I think they're 3-1, which is in Mango's favor. Yeah,
that's impressive by Mango.
Yeah.
If you look at the way the top 4 played out at this event, the set results actually track based on how well each player was playing. First of all, insane that Plup is able to go game 5 with Fox Puff and then switch to Sheik and beat Mango 3-1. And Mango coming off of a hot last 2 games against Zane, too, where he just clutched it out after going down 2-1. As we mentioned, Zane won on his counter pick. And then for Plup to switch right back to the Fox and go, I think it was a couple 4-game sets in Grands.
Yeah.
I think Plup barely clutched out game 4, set 1, and then I can't remember. Did he go down 2-0 or did it go 1-1 in the second set?
He went down 2-0. I think that was the set where...
That's tough to come back from.
I want to say... I'm trying to remember the exact set, how the game 2, set 2 happened, but I believe that was the very sad one where HBox was 150%, and then Plup just only hit weak areas. Just
so frustrating. Oh my god.
Man, I will say, Hungrybox Plup Grand Finals can be some of the most gut-punching sets of all time.
Yeah,
one of our patrons...
for sure, historically.
One of our patrons brought up what's the most gut-punching tournament, end of tournament of all time, and I think a lot of people said the Big House 7, which is my response. Just as so many times HBox will come and just everyone will be excited, and then just he will just take all the excitement away out of the room. But what I think is really cool about this tournament is that Hungrybox won, but I don't think that meant that this was a bad tournament. I don't think that meant these were bad sets that we
No.
saw. I think maybe if Plup hit any strong aerial on HBox Game 2, I think we would be seeing a way better set. I just think when people don't play well, it's hard to say good sets are reward people who aren't playing incredibly well, but, I still think it was a pretty amazing tournament. I think this is just quite a thrill to watch.
Definitely. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier while we were talking, but in the venue, the vibe was pretty exciting throughout, even though HBox won. Like, people were still in super high spirits. HBox did his speech afterwards, and people were still hanging out. In the old venue, like the house, there wasn't like a lot of, like, most people would hang out and watch the finals like in the kitchen area.
Yeah.
But it's like they have this little like living room space area, not like the set, because they built like a living room set, but like they have like a big carpeted area with 3 couches and like a huge table, and like these bean bags and stuff. So most people are hanging out over there. It's just like on the other side. Yeah, one of them. Those are the ones that we're gonna reserve for you.
Yeah.
So like, and I was actually playing table tennis, and I stopped to watch like set 2 of grand finals, because I kind of thought it would go 3-1 in set 1 or something, and that would be it. But once it came to set 2, like, I put down the rack or the paddle and I watched it.
I am not immune. I have definitely left venues when HBox is up a lot, especially if he is coming from losers. I've left venues during like game 1 of set 2. I have turned streams off. I when you know how it's kind of gonna go when you hear the music playing. Yeah, but this was an event. Even if I speak as someone who is not really an HBox fan, doesn't really love when HBox wins, this was a pretty exciting way to finish the tournament, I would say. I think losing game 2 in such a way kind of did put a damper on the entire set, but even then I think grand finals as a whole was so exciting enough that I'm willing to say that this was not a lost cause.
No, not by any stretch. I thought it was an awesome tournament.
For sure.
Yeah. So most of the invited players did pretty well, to where we would expect them to. Leffen probably the big exception.
Yeah.
Aside from that, most of them did solid. The qualified players, they all did pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Exception.
Yeah, you cut out there just a little bit, but
I was gonna say my Discord made a noise. Can you hear me again?
I can. What was the Discord noise like? Can you try to repeat it?
I can't replicate it now. It's too high level for me.
Damn. It wasn't like the iPhone noises, right? You can do the iPhone noises.
No. Yeah, I can do all the iPhone noises. I won't do them right now, but yeah, you got me covered.
I'm here for you.
Of the qualified players, Fiction, None, Hacks, and Cody, IBDW, all did very well.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, Shroomed was the exception, where he didn't even qualify for the top 16, which was surprising to me.
Yeah, on the pre-show, I did predict Priscent being able to beat Shroomed. Unfortunately, I think Shroomed is just kind of like, he is the type of player who will do that. I mentioned in my little blurbs that I was putting out for top player, or for the top 100 when the top 100 was releasing. I mentioned that just basically what I expect from Shroomed right now is I don't think that he is a bad player. I think that he's very talented. I just don't think that he will consistently show off like good wins.
His play style is hard for him to consistently show up with. He has to be like on, to like be producing results, and he was on at Genesis. He played well.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. If he's on, I think that he can lead to results. Like, I was not surprised when he got top 8 at Genesis, because I think that every year he will have 1 or 2 tournaments where he just reminds everyone just how good he is.
Yeah,
and I just also think it lends to him really kind of underperforming outside of those events where he really pops off. So
yeah, right.
Yeah, kind of lackluster from him, but I think not incredibly surprising. Ryobeat was someone who maybe people expected more of, and I don't think we saw the level of play from him that we've seen from like
Genesis. I mean, you have to temper your expectations. Here's how I feel about it. So Ryobeat's been just like exploding over the last 6 months, both in terms of like results and notoriety. Especially coming off of Genesis, where he had a sick upset over Wizrobe. He played amazing in that set.
Yeah, and continued it through losers. He beat Moki, and it's like
exactly, yeah. Like I think he ended up getting 13th at Genesis.
I believe it was
17th.
17th, losing to
17th?
West Balls. No,
Yeah.
17th losing to he lost to West Balls in winners. Oh, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I mean, well, even his loss to West Balls, Genesis actually was playing hot at West Balls. Oh, he lost to S2J in losers at Genesis.
Oh yeah, that's a tough.
Yeah, that's tough. Imagine if he had beaten Wizrobe and S2J in the same tournament. Oh my god, that would have been insane.
I think it was none right after, right?
Yeah, it was the little Falcon quadrant of the Genesis losers bracket. Because S2J and Nunn played after that. I think Nunn won that. Yeah, because then he beat Amsa and qualified for top 8. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say something very dumb, and I was gonna say, we all know, Peach versus Yoshi, so he would have made top 8, and then I would have just gone on like that from there until he wins Genesis.
You're right. It was about to be dumb. Yeah, good job stopping yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing, he didn't even perform like poorly at this tournament. His gameplay was 100% not up to his own standards, not up to the standards that I expect from him as well. I've been watching him play for a bit. I remember it was Smash Camp last year where he really popped onto my radar for like potential rising in the coming. Like I had known about him before then, but who did he beat that really surprised me at Smash Camp?
Well, he actually went to 2 Smash Camp, you mean?
Smash Camp, yeah, is what I said. Did I say Smash Con?
I could have just heard Smash Con. And
I think he beat West Balls, right?
He beat West Balls at Smash Camp end of summer. He also, I believe, got top 8, or maybe he got 9th place at the first Smash Camp of the year. Yeah, just one of those players who we've known of him, if you've been paying attention to Melee, since 2016 or so, maybe even earlier.
Well, he's been around since even before that.
He's been around since way before, yeah.
But
He's been like
playing for a long time.
Consistently outside of top 100, I think, since 2015 to 2016. And this was just the year that he had a little better results than any year before. And he just like truly showed up, and I think that it continued. Some guy is opening his hotel. Oh, nope, he's closing the shades once he saw me.
Nice.
I thought
you've kind of commandeered the whole pool area for yourself.
There's no one else here. I definitely commandeer this place. And if someone shows up, hey, we got a guest.
A special guest. Yeah.
Man, what do you think about Plup's performance as the 10th seed?
She just rattles off like all these facts.
She's like, why should he be 10th? He's ranked above Fiction. It's just like...
That's funny. I'm trying to remember. There was one other result that really stood out to me. Oh, I think didn't Raubi get top 8 at the most recent National Arcadian?
Yes, he got 5th place. Beating people. I forget. It's really hard to remember how that...
It's hard to track that tournament because there's so many names there.
There are so many names there. So it's really hard to say. He got either 4th or 5th. I know, like, Curve, Albert, I Love Bagels. There were a lot of people in that area. He might have even got 7th, to be honest. It's hard to really remember which of the up-and-comers or, like, old players who just still got it, who showed up. It's really tough to remember how that all played out. But yeah, he's been consistently good. And seeing him get 17th here, that doesn't really mean anything to me, to be honest. Like, it just shows that he lost to people.
It's just an insanely tough tournament.
Yeah. Like, what is the only win that, or the only loss that he had that was not like a top 20 player? It was Bobby Big Balls, which I think is still.
He played poor in that set too. He did not play well in that set.
No,
that was bit of a frustrating set for me to watch because I think he was putting. It seemed like he was putting a lot of pressure on himself day 2, kind of to perform.
Yeah,
which it's tough. You feel like you go to these events and you have to like maximize your opportunity. So.
especially for someone who puts his heart on his sleeve as much as he does. He is a player
Yeah,
who,
true.
He really understands that with being a top player, there comes a lot of eyes on you, and he does as much as he can to put his message out there, which I think is really admirable. I think that there are players who have larger spots in the community who don't make their voices heard as much. I think that is one of his strongest aspects of a community member, and it's also something that is just can be a lightning rod for shitters. So
True.
It does hurt if you are at an event and people already don't like you for something that you've done, especially for something like a bullshit reason, like trying to speak out against some injustice in the world.
Yeah.
I imagine that you are just winless throughout this, right? It is tough to keep a really strong mental game during this entire thing. But I don't think anything less of him. I think this tournament didn't prove that he is, it didn't show me that he's not going to be good or anything like that. I think he's still a player who at an event can pop off. I just think that he kind of got thrown in the deep end of the pool and maybe didn't necessarily, start swimming.
Yeah, it's just how it goes sometimes. There's not really much more you can say about it, right? Think about it this way. This is how I think. Last year, the worst or last Smash Summit, the two of the players who placed to the worst were S2J and Moki.
Yes.
So you kind of have to put everything into context. A summit is just an incredibly difficult event to do well at.
Yeah, he joins the illustrious group of players who go winless, which includes players who've been top 10 in their lifetime. So
yeah, definitely.
What can you really say? On the other hand, we can talk about people who got voted in. Probably the Cinderella story of the voting experience, I think, would be Priscent, the Norwegian Fox player. I hoped against hope that he would make it in. I thought I was just kind of being crazy for thinking that he would get in instead of chilling or something like that. But lo and behold, we saw him. He made the cut, and not only did he make the cut, but I think he really proved that he's got the stuff, if you will, and kind of carved out a name for himself to a lot of people who probably didn't know about him, probably didn't know he was top 100, to be honest.
Yeah, very few people probably, well, not very few, but there were probably a large percentage of folks watching at home who had just no idea who he was.
For sure.
And I tried to hype him up beforehand. I talked about him on commentary a bit, and I got to watch some of the other players play him before the tournament started, because everybody arrives, media day is Wednesday, so there's a full day of players playing and people hanging out, and before even the side events start happening on Thursday. So it was really cool, really, really cool to get to see him play some of his early games with some of the other Foxes who were there. And another, just as a quick aside, a really cool thing about him coming too is that we got to have Pipsqueak come as well.
Yeah.
Another amazing European Fox player, super cool guy. Both those guys are awesome, by the way. I got to know both of them quite a bit better. And just an amazing opportunity for them. When I was headed out to LAX on Monday after the tournament, I took a ride with Pip, Triff, and Priscent to the airport, and they were all asking me about which American tournaments that would be the best for them to try to come back out to. So
that's
I think
amazing.
Priscent was really energized by this trip. He was excited by how he was able to perform, and I think a lot of people were also excited by how he was able to perform too.
That is so incredible, because he is someone who this is no surprise to, I think, anyone who knew about Priscent going into this tournament. I think that his performance here was no surprise. I think that this was...
I was not surprised, yeah.
To be honest, there are probably Priscent fans who thought that this was maybe a bit of a letdown for him to perform as he did.
Honestly, yeah, I could see it.
And the thing that really stopped Priscent from being someone who had more of a breakout, I think, he didn't go to a ton of tournaments in Europe. Kind of his thing, he was a young kid. He was in Norway, which he is the first Norwegian top 100 player. He was kind of in a scene that didn't have a ton of top players, and he didn't really get to travel a lot. And then we see him more throughout the year, throughout like 2018, 2019, starts to go to more, but even then still isn't traveling a ton. And as recently as Valhalla 3 in January, he dropped out. I don't know if he was not feeling well or if he's just kind of not feeling great about his play or his future in Melee. But lo and behold, like he went for it, he got in, and I think that not only do people, know that he is good, I think that he's cultivated a little bit of a fan base.
Oh, definitely, dude. Did you see him play in the swag bracket?
It is so amazing.
His Falco.
Like, I'm sure people were like, "Damn, this Falco's so crazy! I can't wait to see my bracket." And then he just goes a crazy fox. Like, he is a player.
Yeah, right.
He's a player. Oh, is the raccoon here?
Oh, your buddy.
Okay. The raccoon is... Jesus, it's coming near me.
Is it really near you?
It's like 20 feet away from me.
Oh, that's pretty close. Can you like make a noise? Can you make it go away? Or do you want him to come closer and hang out?
I'd rather not have him come closer. Is that what you do? Do you make a noise?
Well, they get spooked if they... Because, like, you're probably pretty still, aren't you?
Should I throw a
You're
chair?
not moving around. Yeah, sure.
Is that, like, the best thing to do?
I don't know, dude. I don't know what to tell you. My parents had raccoons living under their deck, and we couldn't get them to go away.
No, we had skunks, and I went to school one day smelling like a skunk.
Really?
That is like the saddest story I think that looking back of my childhood is that I went to high school in 10th grade, and I smelled like a skunk, and someone was like, "Who smells like weed?" And then I just owned up to it. I said, "That's me who smells. I have skunks under my porch." That is like the story.
You could have been so cool. Been like, "Yeah, bro, I smell like weed. What of it?"
I think that they would have been like, they pulled me aside. "Hey, man, you got to get better weed. If you smell like that, yeah."
Yeah, that doesn't
by the way,
smell that
I
good,
did
man.
scare the...
You've been buying that.
Buying the mids. I did scare the
good job
raccoon
dealing
away.
with the raccoon issue. I'm proud of you.
When it came to the pressure of the raccoon, I think I really did step up. The only thing is that I wonder if it is getting ready for me outside of the pool area.
Entirely possible.
Fucking, do that thing where they do it, they rub their hands back and forth.
Yeah, like in the commercials.
Like in the commercials.
Yeah, animated raccoons.
But yeah.
Anyway.
Prisson basically done with that. I think that he's an amazing player. I think hearing that he wants to come to U.S. events, that's so good because he is a player who can make top 50 pretty easily. I think that his skill range
totally
is. I think that he can play really well. One of the interesting things, if you follow like him or Pipsqueak, the player who came as his coach, both of them just were, and I think even Fiction, because Fiction was a big Prisson fan the second he started playing him. Everyone was kind of disappointed with how he was dealing with the pressure, because they were saying that he would, he'd lose to Magi or something like that, and then he'd play a set or he'd play friendlies and he would just whoop people. Like,
yeah,
he got like 3-1 by Fiction.
There was like a period where he won like a bunch of games in a row on a setup with two other foxes. I can't remember who they were. There were so many foxes at this event.
A lot of foxes. Exactly one puff.
Yeah, and no Prince of Boo or any other puff. The best puff there was Drug Fox's puff.
That is nuts.
So Sammy played almost all puff, like the whole
That's
week.
So funny.
He was playing a ton of puff.
He was the one doing it. Nice.
He played a little Pikachu too. To be fair, he did get some Pikachu in there. Yeah, I mean his Pikachu is not bad. He can play the cast. He's a monster.
Isn't it a little Pikachu Pichu?
Nice.
Or Pikachito? Something.
Pikachito. That's good.
Maybe that doesn't. Maybe we won't go back to that joke.
Yeah, we'll hold on to that one.
But yeah, I think like this is a pretty good showing from him. Was there anyone else you wanted to highlight, just based on their performances? Because if not, I kind of want to talk about people who maybe.
Yeah, not really anything direct related to performance. We can talk more about like the general event stuff whenever But
Yeah.
I think those were most of the things that I wanted to talk about people's
Well, I'd love to
performances.
talk about Leffen's performance to kind of cap the
Yeah,
tournament
perfect.
aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
So we saw him. He went in as the 4th seed. This was, the last 2 times we saw him kind of had. Actually, if you add in Shine, the last 3 times we saw him at large U.S. events have all had fine performances. Maybe not something that was great from him. He got 3rd at the Big House, and he lost this just got soul crushed by Zayn, just 3-0'd, 4-star.
Yeah, that was brutal. Oh man,
and even
Zayn was hot.
3rd place at the Big House. That's a great performance. He 3-0'd Mango, I think, in winner's side, but we saw kind of him just take 2 rough losses in a row, and I think that it didn't really. It was kind of a little scary. And we saw him at Shine before. He got 5th, losing to Moki and IBW, players who we didn't really think he would lose to. And then here at this event, we saw him have this really good pools bracket where he beats Axe, he beats Wizzy, beats None. But
He looked good.
He has that set versus Zayn where he just falls apart, and then he goes into bracket. He has another Game 5 set versus Mango. That's all we get.
Yeah.
And ends up losing to IBW again. What do you expect to see from Leffen at future events? What do you think we see more of the kind of Leffen that falls apart, or do we see him kind of actually put his game plan together?
It's kind of crazy because you can look at it at multiple levels. At a high surface level, you can say, oh my god, Leffen got 9th. That's miserable, right? He didn't place top 8. What was the stat on his top 8 placements? It's been
that
since
GTX 2017.
GTX.
He got 9th,
right.
losing to Lovage and Plup.
Losing to Lovage, Plup, right? Yeah.
Or maybe actually, I think he might have got 13th because they both got put in. Regardless, the last time he missed top 8 was September 2017.
So it's been a long time.
For sure, been a long time.
But so then you get a little bit deeper, right? And you look at it and you say, well, all of those sets were close in this tournament. He lost 3-2 to Mango, 3-2 to IBDW, and the Zayn one was the only one that was brutal,
Yeah.
But again, I think that was his last set in pools, right? Was against Zayn.
Mm-hmm.
Am I correct?
Who even knows at this point?
It's a mystery. Actually, I can check real quick.
It was he 3-0'd by Big Balls.
Oh no, it was Bobby. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
the Zayn one was right before that. Yeah, and in that Bobby set, Bobby actually did pretty well too. Bobby literally doesn't know how to not side B. He loves to just side B constantly. So Leffen killed him a ton for that.
Leffen eats that up. You can see Leffen.
Yeah, he's great at covering that.
He'll have sets with Mango, and he'll just constantly read it, and sometimes it's not great. But yeah, if someone is doing it, and he super onto that for sure.
Yeah. So overall, if you just look at the set counts, you kind of think about it that way. You think, it wasn't that terrible. And he, the sets, the Game 5 sets against Mango and IBDW. If you look at the sets themselves too, you can see Leffen, he's trying to still play his same game plan, but by my estimation, it just seems like he's failing execution a ton. And it's not even obvious stuff. It's not even he's missing all these things. It's just he's not hitting as insanely hard as we're used to seeing him hit. He's just making small errors that are just adding up. So I honestly don't think it's going to be a huge slide for Leff. Obviously he went on the tweet storm afterwards.
he went on the biggest tweet storm in a little bit.
It's been a while since he's popped off on Twitter like that.
For sure.
And he had already not endeared himself to the community at large. Well, not even the community. He had not endeared himself to chat.
Yeah.
And the common viewer leading up to that point. Not to, I'm not trying to use the common viewer as a disparaging term. It's just, people who are less deeply invested in it as we are.
It's really important to talk about if we are going to talk about Melee's growth, right? If
Yeah.
we can't talk about how it's so great that this is the second biggest prize pool, and also not act like the people who are donating this money and who are watching this don't matter, right?
No, they totally matter.
Of course.
But the only, I mean, he's always playing another game, and now he's like working on Grand Blue, and he's been tweeting about it a lot. Just earlier today, he was talking about Grand Blue mains and who he was thinking about picking up, and he does have like some time before we see him again. I don't know off the top of my head what the next event he's scheduled for is, but I know that we don't have any Melee events coming up super soon.
We have a run of a couple events that could be regional, could be majors. Events that we haven't seen him at in a while.
Borderline events.
We've got CEO. We've got
CEOs in
Full Bloom. CEO Dreamland.
CEO Dreamland. That's right. I forgot about that. That's in April, isn't it?
I believe it's like mid-March, and then within a week of each other, it's Full Bloom and Pounds, and then it really gets to like Gommel in May. None of those were events that we've like necessarily seen all top players need to flock to. So it could be months before we see Leffen at an event. It could be weeks, to be honest. It's hard to really say, but you're right. Like, he is someone who falls so easily into the trap of other games. And I think I mentioned it on an episode with Edwin where it's like, I will feel very confident about his play, and then I will see, like, on my YouTube feed, it'll be like a shocked like thumbnail of him, and it'll be like, Byleth? And I'll just be like, no!
Yeah. Oh, well, one thing he's been talking about, he talked about this in person to people at the event, and then also he's been openly talking about it for a bit to his stream and stuff. I think he might have even tweeted about it. He's talking about how he wants to reframe the way that he like produces content, how he streams, how he practices games, just like kind of rethink, because like he's built like a pretty popular stream by doing other games, and it's important for him to maintain that. But he has to find a more healthy way to balance it, because one of the best ways, and this is the way that he's grown, is by putting raw hours into something, like into streaming. Streaming is that's one of the most important ways to grow, is to do it a lot. And he's done that. He's put big hours into it. And his stream has done amazing as a result, but it also results in like a poor balance in life. Yeah. Not all the time, but sometimes it can be difficult. So he's trying to do more of like targeted, like specific content creation, and like have a goal for his streams when they're on. Not stream for quite as long of a time, but have it be more like specific content.
I think this is the first time, if you talk about Shine, Big House, that the past couple months, I think this is our first time that we've really seen him fail to be top level on this way in a little bit. If you look at Dragon Ball, he was, when he played Dragon Ball Z, top 15. He was consistently doing well versus top players.
I miss him in that game, by the way. I love watching him play DBFZ.
He was a treat, and he also played in a very specific way, especially like everyone knows him for his Android 21. I'm trying not to get too much into it, but he ended up he played Base Vegeta at one point, which is very based upon like these infinite combos, these like loops, and he was another thing where he talks about how he can't play his character because they are too execution heavy.
He loves going for those kind of characters. I guess
he goes for those characters, and we've seen him succeed in Ultimate. Like he's done well at events where he's done well in Ultimate and done well in Melee.
He's probably, would you say he's the best Melee to Ultimate transition out of anyone?
I don't think we have a better person to really.
I can't think of one, right?
I think Armada's results just aren't there.
No.
Plup has had good results, but without him really devoting himself, it's hard to say definitively. Yeah, I think
Wizzy's done okay.
Wizzy's done fine. I think Wizzy's had like that one tweak win, and then he had like just a bunch of 97ths and stuff. But yeah, like he has someone who does so well, and it kind of seems to catch up to him, and I think that like it just comes down to what level of play he's able to perform at. I messaged Edwin during the tournament, and I think Leffen is the player who if he is playing at 100%, the way that he does versus the field changes so differently than if he's playing 80%. Even if you take like Leffen 100% versus opponent 100%, even if you knock it down to both of them are 80%, 70%, I think that Leffen's chances are so drastically lower. If you look at someone like Mango,
it closes the gap for sure.
Yeah. Like if you see Mango versus like another player and they're both playing like 70, 80%, Mango does so well in scrap situations that you're really kind of confident that he's able to figure it out. But if you see Leffen versus Axe, or if you see him versus Wizzy, or if you see him versus Zane, if you have these players who just, if he might not be on, there's suddenly players that become so scary. And I don't know, and every Fox player right now, like Fiction, Hacks, IBW, Moki, this is not a thing that we would have seen from him. And I think if he's playing 100%, if they're both playing 100%, I don't think any of those players outside of like, you know, Zane or something is really incredibly scary. But are we in a tournament landscape where we're going to see him play 100% consistently? That is really what this comes down to. And
yeah, it doesn't really seem like it.
No. I think that he could. But from what we've been seeing, I think that we kind of have to assume that Leffen will be playing at maybe an 80% or so, and then kind of figure out accordingly what that means to his results. You know, he could be, and that doesn't mean he's not playing well in every set. Like he could be playing well in one set and then maybe not so great in another. But we've seen tournaments from him where he has it on from round 1 to grand finals. We've seen Gommel 2016. We've seen SmashCon 2019. We've seen EVO 2018. We have seen Leffen, when he is on his shit, he is one of the scariest players in the history of Melee. And right now, I just don't see that Leffen playing in bracket.
Yeah. It's, if anything, it'll be a good wake-up call for him, I hope. Because I don't think he's far off of, you know, us seeing him get to where he was. But, you know, before the next tournament, he has to put in some serious time, you know, if not only into tech grinding, but also just kind of like working on some answers to some things.
I agree. But, you know, in the same breath, you have to mention that if there is a top 10 player who is able to kind of slip in results and see that and grind to the point where that might not be the case, I think Leffen is such a great candidate.
Definitely.
So I, by no means, am calling Leffen out. I'm not saying he's going to go through a slump. I'm just saying that there become a lot more scary people in his bracket path once he starts playing at a level which is might not be consistently playing 100%. But who knows? Next tournament, we could see him back on it. I think that he has a threat to win any tournament, and I don't think that this counts him out. But, you know, this gets us to a really great topic. This is going to be our last topic of the day. You know, we're kind of getting a little close to the end of the episode. But people do love to rank players. And sometimes
they do. That's
sometimes
true.
Our players love to rank players. So, Webs, I have this here for you. Unspoiled. Okay. I did make sure that this was... This is a present for you. This is your first time hearing this.
Yeah, I've not heard this before.
Hungrybox recently made a list of the top 12 players, top 13 players of the year, based upon 2020 results.
Can you tell me, where did he publish this?
This is on his stream.
Okay, cool.
Now, disclaimer. I think rankings talk outside of 2 times of the year is relatively dumb. I think unless there is a huge change with a good sample size, like, you know, if you started talking about, we have the MSPR, which is a 4-month thing. If there's, you know, there could be an MSPR this year just because of how many tournaments I think are coming up and how varied the results have been at the tournaments that we've seen. But I think if you are going to seriously talk about rankings for 2 tournaments, I think that you have to reconsider your place in the community. I think that if you want to talk seeding, you know, is inherently understanding of how players fluctuate, because you are saying, okay, Wizzy might not be playing so well in the past few tournaments, but you have this implicit knowledge that he is a top player and he could turn it on. So maybe you aren't going to seed him directly below someone who might have done better at the last result, you know?
Yeah. That makes sense.
But I think talking about just straight rankings, like only looking at 2 tournaments worth of results, that is incredibly antithetical to what I think of as rankings. Nevertheless, it is time to reveal the H rank, is what I'll call it.
H rank.
For 2020. The events in question, Genesis, Summit, and Lombardi, which has 2 of the top 13 players going.
So that's those. He explicitly said that's all he ranked off of these 3 events.
That is, I have a image that shows the 3 events with their corresponding players' performances there. So I don't think he really looked at anything else, just because there's not a lot to go off of unless you really kind of want to go to the nitty gritty.
So repeat one more time. What's the 3 events?
Genesis, Summit, and then Lombardi, Save Mr. Lombardi 2, which has 2 of the top 13 players. So obviously not a lot going on there.
Not a huge. That's what I was gonna say. Actually, a little bit confused that one was considered, but all the same.
Yeah, let's get into it. So we have the number 1 player. This is H rank. So of course the number 1 player is H box.
H God on top. Let's go, baby.
H God on top of the H rank. We have Zane coming in at number 2 with a first and a fourth.
Zane coming in at number 2. Okay.
Mango at 3rd place because he's placed 3rd at Genesis and Summit. You can't put him anywhere but 3rd.
Fair.
And then,
that's where he belongs.
coming in at number 4, boxing his way in at number 4 is Hacks Money.
Hacks Money
at
number
4th.
4.
And I know you're saying, well, why is Hacks above that certain Fox player, right?
Do you know why?
Because, yeah, he's above the certain Fox player who's number 5. That certain Fox being Fiction, who is 5th place.
Fiction is 5th. That's not what I thought you were going to say.
Oh, you're thinking of that one Fox player, Leffen. Oh, he's 6th.
Oh, okay. All right.
So we've got H God, Zane, Mango, Hacks, Fiction, Leffen. 7th is Plup. IBW gets his way in at 8. And we see Axe at 9.
Sorry, who was 7?
7 was Plup.
Okay, the mic cut out right when you said it, so I didn't.
All right, so we have H God, Zane, Mango, Hacks, Fiction, Leffen at 6, Plup, IBW, then Axe at 9th, and then filling out the top 10 is None.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and we see there's also, and 11th is Amso, and I don't understand this. This is a screenshot from his stream. It is color coded, so all these players are colored green, and then I have 2 players who are colored yellow, which is Wizzy and Shroomed at 12 and 13. So I don't know what that means. I have no idea what that means.
He's got Shroomed at 13.
It might just
these are rankings. These aren't for.
It might just be he only had 13 players involved. You know.
Okay. All right. I feel like oh man.
It might be a group of 13.
I don't want to make too harsh of a judgment without knowing like the context, because I feel like there has to be some context.
And I am lacking in context for this. So
it's just it's H rank. That's all I'll say. That's H rank for you, fellas.
Hey, it's H rank.
Hey, folks, everyone at home, welcome. There's H rank. That's all I got.
It is quite the ranking, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not what I expected. I'll tell you that.
That's why H rank exists.
I love that Hacks is that high. That's the one that really threw me for a loop.
Very funny. That's very high.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Maybe it's just like players that he's scared of.
So.
That's why he's number 1. He's scared of himself the most. You know.
Aren't we all?
I know, right? It's very deep.
It's really funny because on here it shows Hacks got 4th at Genesis and 7th at Summit, and then Fiction got 5th at Genesis and 7th at Summit. Leffen got 5th at Genesis and 9th at Summit. So it just looks like it is just giving you like the average and then sorting by term and average.
I mean, if you don't know much about how rankings work and you're just given that little bit of information, like it makes sense. It tracks.
Yeah. I mean, why isn't Amsa 9th if he went to 2 events and he got 9th at each? Hard questions you gotta ask.
Yeah, let's see. There's inconsistencies.
Yeah. Well, H rank, that's an interesting one. I talked about how I think that is very dumb to do a ranking, but do you want to hash out before the show's done? Do you want to hash out what might be a top 10? Let's say seeding. Seeding makes it sound a little nicer because you kind of understand that these players.
So like a current top 10 seeding. You want to see if we can put one together real quick?
Yeah, I've got something I'm thinking of. Do you want to work it
Sure.
out?
Well, I mean, I think pretty clearly you're still putting Hungry Box on top.
I think H-Box is on top, and then I think Zane and Mango. I would say Mango then Zane right now. But
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, go on.
I was gonna put Mango 2 as well.
Perfect.
And after Zane.
See, the thing is, I think pretty clearly that is a group of its own.
Okay,
I think
you set that into its own tier.
I think that H-Box should be number one going into a future event. I don't think it is crazy to say that he is extremely above Mango or Zane. If you were to look at the year plus, maybe some of the stuff that happened last year. I don't think it's crazy to see him as very far away from that group. And I think at 4, that gets a little harder.
Do you put Plup at 4 after Summit?
I'm willing to concede that it's. I would
for
say
seeding.
For seeding,
I
would
put
say
him there for seeding.
I would say it could be Leffen or Plup. I think Leffen would be a conservative answer,
Okay.
and it would be based off of a lot of past events. I think Plup is the answer that is based off heavily recency biased. I think both can be argued. I don't think one is necessarily incorrect and one's correct. I think both are there. And then I have Axe at 6 in that scenario.
Okay. Yeah, I think Axe is pretty clearly 6.
Do you know who's 7th?
For 7, I might put Hacks at 7.
Ooh. I say Fiction can be seated 7th.
Okay, I was thinking Fiction or Hacks as a treat. I think Fiction, Hacks, and IBDW are all right in that area right around there.
I agree. I think that they're all right there. I think Fiction has. So basically, when I did the Genesis recap episode with Edwin, we looked at Fiction and Hacks, how they performed, because they both performed in a similar way. I think it's kind of interesting because I viewed both of those differently in terms of what I expected from them. I think that is Fiction's normal level, and what I viewed that as Hacks' ceiling. Which, after another event, maybe it's just more of Hacks' normal level. I think that Hacks... yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think that Hacks has a higher floor and a lower ceiling, and I think Fiction has an incredibly high floor, but is less of a constant threat to the top 3 or so, 3, 4, 5, whatever you want to call it.
I totally agree with that, by the way. I think that the way Fiction plays really lends itself to that narrative, too. He's a player who's looking for really consistent ways to win matchups. Like, against slower characters, his game plan a lot of the time is to just push them into the corner and just kind of, like, hold his ground, Stay center, push them off the edge, hit a lot of bears.
Yeah.
You kind of saw that against Hacks, or against Axe, sorry.
Yes.
He lost that set, but that was kind of like the strategy he's going for. But if you watch that set, oh my god, this is like a perfect example. Like, he was using that really consistent, solid strategy, and it brought him super close in the games that he lost. Like, he lost the set 3-1. But both, like, 2 of the games that he lost were just, like, last minute, like, Axe just barely taking the last stock,
Yeah.
Axe had that insane double nair up air on Battlefield, which was just like one of the coolest. I rewatched it yesterday. I rewatched that set yesterday, and I commentated it live, and I didn't fully appreciate just how absolutely dirty the double nair up air conversion that Axe picked up was, because Axe was at 167, and he just called out one of Fiction's bear landings. He just timed it perfectly, so he hit right after Fiction landed, and before he could block or get an up tilt or anything out, caught him DIing in. Hit him with rising nair to combo off stage, and of course Fiction's holding in at this point, and then just comboed it straight into up air. It was just absolutely disgusting. So, that's just a perfect example of Fiction's playstyle lending itself more to consistency and less to, like, not to say that he did anything wrong by trying to play that way. Like, if he had played a little bit differently, not like style wise, but like, input wise, like, with the actual timing of his moves, like, he totally could have won the set. It was a really close set, even 3-1 for Axe.
He's definitely becoming more of a player who we would expect to not see get upset. Like, he is not really upset
Yeah.
potential on either side of the coin. I don't think he's someone who is going to. No one's going to be crowding around a setup at Genesis with him like round 1 of 64, right? Or like in round 2 pools. Like, you're not going to see him versus the 79th seed or some shit and be like, oh shit, can Fiction pull this one out? But by the same thing, you're probably going to not expect him to take a set off of HBox anytime soon.
Yeah.
And I think Hax is someone who's different. Hax is someone who I think this could just be box narrative still continuing. This could be people not updating how their preconceived notions of him. But I think that if you had Hax in a bracket of like a super major, I think that there's still scary things to see him in, right? Like, I think Hax versus like Forest, that's a scary thing. And I think that Hax has those people who could be scary, when I think that Fiction might. This could be personal, like I could be looking at it like this, but I don't think Fiction has a ton of matchups that I would be truly scared of until he makes like top 16 or so.
Yeah, Fiction's really. I think him and IBDW, have kind of worked together to really shore up a lot of their weaknesses as Fox players, and it's gone a long way towards their consistency. I was really impressed by both of them at this event, especially. I keep waiting for one of them to slip a little bit and have a bad performance, but man, those guys are just playing awesome.
Oh, for sure. And I think IBW is kind of like a perfect middle ground for those players that we said. I don't think that he is upset proof, but I also think that he can beat players above him. I think that he is able to have sets where he might lose to players who are below him, but I think that he is still extremely consistent. And I think that I would probably put him at 9 on a current seeding. And then it kind of gets to a tough part, because when you're talking about seeding, I think that static seeding is really hard to it's hard to argue that it should be the case, right? I think that most seeds in a bracket can be switched 1 or 2 in either direction, possibly even more the further you go down. So to kind of like shoehorn in a 3rd seed or a 10th seed might be a little tough. So for that, I might kind of bend the rules. I think if you want to be conservative, I think you put Wizzy there. I think you understand that Wizzy's been playing so well for so long, and kind of give him the credit. I think if you want to be more up to date, you would put None there for his recent results. And I think if you kind of wanted to shoot the middle, I think you would say Amsa.
Say who? Sorry, you cut out.
Amsa.
Okay. None was going to be I was going to go None, Wizzy, Amsa in that order, actually.
I think that any of them could be in any order. I think it goes to
they're definitely a tier.
What the seeder would want. I would feel bad breaking it up in any way and saying definitively one is above any of the other two. So that's how I think.
I think you could also put S2J in that conversation too.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's funny because we didn't see S2J at the summit, so I think he's kind of off a lot of people's minds. And to that extent, if you wanted to put Muta King there, it's like, why not, right?
I mean, yeah. After this MPGR season, I just want to forget about putting Muta King on anyone.
It'd be easier for sure.
That's for sure.
It'd make life a lot easier. He is a
player I think that's a pretty solid list over.
Nothing but complaints as well, so that's kind of a.
Yeah, no kidding.
A little harder to figure that one out. But yeah, I think that top 12, 13 with S2J, I think that's solid. You could even say like, you want to throw in Muta King and SFAT after that? I think that's fine.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
Like, there's so many people.
Moki's in the conversation too if we see him at 10.
Yeah, tons of good players, but I think that is right now what I would want to call a top 10 seeding. I think that it's really cool. And I think that this is a reason why people should not be so up in arms about the MPGR, is that if the MPGR changed from, oh, that's a mosquito, that's why I was feeling weird. That's why my arm was feeling itchy. If the MPGR was Genesis to Genesis instead of December to December, we would have seen drastically different results. And I think that
oh my gosh, yes.
I think people need to understand that. And like, I think that that's the reason why people, if they get so up in arms It's like, well, this doesn't affect how the community views you. I understand that you don't want to be ranked lower, but like how we move forward constantly changes.
Yeah.
And
It's only for 6 months. We do the summer rank. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've seen so many differences already. We both pretty much say that Fiction and Hacks are two players who are right up there, and well, we saw them at 12th and 19th. Like that is a big jump.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think the episode's getting a little long here.
Yeah, sure. We can end
There's
it right now.
Well, I wanted to just talk about a few other things just about my Summit experience. I'm not going to go into any kind of depth. Just keep it pretty brief.
For sure.
I mean, like I mentioned earlier, it was the first one that I've had the opportunity to attend. I was super grateful to the BTS staff for giving me the shot, me out. I had an amazing time, just like every moment that I was there. In the past, watching Summits, I haven't really ever watched Mafia, but I got to this time around, and now I'm in love with that game. That's such a fun game to play. I don't think I'll watch it still. It's not really the most fun spectator experience for me personally, but playing it was super fun. And as a note, I also won every single game of Mafia that I played. I went 4-0 over the week.
You are a beast.
I won as Town 3 times. 2 of those games I actually played really well, too. And then I won the final game as Mafia, and that game was just a shit show. I didn't play that great. It was the only time I've ever been Mafia. But I played okay. I played passively. And the town made some mistakes, so that helped. But that was awesome. It's great to see how BTS works as an organization. Like, they legitimately really just care about putting together quality events and without sacrificing so much for it, you know?
Yeah.
People have complained in the past. I don't think people really complain anymore about the whole vote-in procedure, but that used to be a part of it that people weren't so sharp on. And I can tell you that they're just putting all that. They're putting everything to good use. All your money, all your votes.
For sure.
The players themselves too get such cool opportunity by being able to go out.
Yeah. Seems like
and I want to send a special message out to Hotbid, because I'm coming for you in table tennis. I couldn't even take a point off him when I played him. I'm brand new to the game, but I played a ton of table tennis over the weekend, so I found some local spots in Chicago where I can play.
Damn,
there's actually a table tennis hall less than a mile from my apartment, and Prince Abu's a pretty solid player, so I'm going to be playing him.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
so
I mean,
that's pretty much all I had to say.
It sounds like an incredible event. I think that like there's nothing to look forward to except for more events on this level, and I think that we will continue to see like really high level events being put on.
Did you pick up all your stuff? Are you moving right now?
Currently getting kicked out of where I am. Yes. Which is why it's
all right, well, that's a good time as any to end the old pod, isn't we?
Of course. Yeah, I mean, like, it seems like a great event. I really did have a great time talking to you, even if I am being kicked out of the hotel pool. But I really do appreciate you being on.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me again. And y'all can follow me on Twitter at Webs Smash, WEBS Smash. I'm not going to do any additional talking or shilling. I'll just end my piece there so you can go ahead and close it out in a reasonable fashion.
I appreciate it. I am holding my laptop up in one hand and my microphone in the other. It's a little ramshackle. But yeah, I had a great episode. Always a great time talking Melee with you. And can't wait to see you at the BTS house when I'm on my little what do you call those? Bean bags.
Yeah, the wheat bag.
Yes, the wheat bag. All right, well, I will see you. You know, if you guys want to follow us, you can do so on Melee Stats Pod. You can follow me at gimme.wheat. You can talk to us in the Melee Stats Discord. Talk to us on Patreon. That's basically it for gimme.wheat. I am for Melee Stats. I'm gimme.wheat. Thanks for listening, everyone.